Hey, friends. Thanks for being here. And thank you for being here, Amber.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone.
Hey, I appreciate y'all being here ready in chat. That's awesome.
Yeah,
We've been just sitting here chatting a little bit about Crime Con and the world and everything. Kind of a rough day in America yesterday. We had a school shooting in Denver where we just left and a political assassination. And I just hope everybody's okay, as everyone can be.
me as well. It's a hard thing to see when our country is torn apart like this.
Yep, definitely.
Hmm.
Well, I went ahead and took screenshots of the pages that we're going to read so I could put them up here for anyone who wants to kind of read along.
Awesome.
And I thought we would go through the first 21 pages. That kind of hits like a good first section because there's a lot to discuss. So I
Hmm.
figured that would, set us a little limit there.
Okay.
Now, this first page here, I already talked about the foreword from Mark Feldman once, but I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on it because I know you watched the video I did about Dr. Kenneth Feldman up
Mm.
in Seattle and how all those families had to sue him and then they didn't get anywhere with it because he's a mandated reporter. But all of them were falsely accused of Munchausen by proxy and went bankrupt defending themselves and
That,
getting their kids back.
that is so heartbreaking and makes me so infuriated. Um,
Same. And
yeah,
it's wild because all these signs that you hear them talking about, those could apply to a mother with just health anxiety, maybe some
yeah,
hypochondriac tendencies,
right.
or a mother with a rare undiagnosed condition of her child.
Yeah.
It's, and I keep saying mother because they still have female in the diagnostic criteria.
Hmm. Wow. Really?
Yeah, I wasn't so sure about that at first, but I asked, let's see, it was Becca and then a few more people in my comments confirmed it. And when I Googled it, I saw it listed in that, but I didn't feel confident in myself to know that I'm looking at the right or most updated thing.
Uh-huh.
So as far as I can tell, it sounds like that's still the case.
Okay, so they're biased, and it's kind of like that female hysteria.
Yes, and the Dr. Kenneth Feldman even said, in an article I was reading from him, he said that he wouldn't even interview the mother if Munchausen by proxy was suspected because they would just, be prone to lie.
See, that's just not even cool. That's
Right?
I mean, when you have a case, you have to interview all the witnesses, right?
Investigate, yeah, like
Yeah.
It's blows me away to think that the actual suspect themselves wouldn't be considered worthy of speaking to and
Mhm.
hearing their voice and their side.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just yeah, that's infuriating to know that this man is considered the expert and he doesn't even follow through with the expected things to do in a case
Yeah.
like that.
And all of the parents whose children were removed, the ones that sued him because they were falsely accused, they all got their kids back. But there was one of the families that got falsely accused who was in the process of adopting a child, and
Mhm.
that process was stopped and they never got to resume it or continue. And
Oh, wow.
they owned a ranch that they were planning on raising their adopted child on, and they had to sell it for the legal fight to defend themselves.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like it was wild. Thank
Wow.
you, 1970. He's throwing out memberships.
Hey,
And hey,
everybody.
everyone. We
Yeah,
got a
I
bunch of new
see.
people in chat.
Yeah, I see Rosie Posey, which I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah,
And
hey,
then,
Rosie. Joy,
CJB.
CJB,
Yeah,
Kelly
Kelly
B,
B.
Ellie.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
y'all.
and 1970.
Yep. So yeah, that was just disturbing. And then I'm not sure if you saw the video where I read the email where a mother who was being accused of Munchausen by proxy wrote to Gypsy for help in 2023.
Yeah.
I don't remember what state she said she was in, but she said it was a female doctor that was accusing her, and it sounded from what she said, we don't know who she is or anything, but
Mhm.
or if that's verifiable, but it sounded like from what she said, it was a similar situation. I believe she said that this doctor had accused other families as well.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and so on that vein, I did want to read this first page again and then get your opinion on it. Just the first page of Mark Feldman's foreword here
Yeah, go
to
ahead.
this book. So Mark Feldman, not Kenneth Feldman, the other one, but Mark says Munchausen by proxy may be the single most complex and lethal form of maltreatment known today. It is formally defined as the falsification or induction of physical and or emotional illness by a caretaker of a dependent person. In most cases, the perpetrator is a mother and the victim is her own child. Baron Karl von Munchausen was a real historical figure, a soldier and an inventor of the 18th century who became notorious for his outrageous stories. In 1951, a British physician borrowed the Baron's name and introduced the term Munchausen syndrome for people who feign or produce illness in themselves to gain sympathy, nurturance, and control over others. In turn, MBP was coined to describe those who use a substitute or proxy for the same reasons. It is conservatively estimated that 1,200 new cases of MBP are reported annually in the United States, with proportional numbers in other countries based on their population. However, many more cases go unreported, indeed entirely undetected, due to the covert nature of the maltreatment. A recent study indicates that when a case of MBP is finally recognized, up to 25% of the second child's siblings have already died, most likely earlier victims of the perpetrator. Only when the same pattern of symptoms appears in the second child of the family, or a third, or fourth, or fifth, have professionals and legal authorities been forced to recognize that motherhood can twist into a strange illness related type of abuse that, unlike battering or sexual violation, defies ready categorization. So
Mhm.
he really sets the stage there in that for it to imply that this is just, massive, massive problem that's everywhere. Munchausen by proxy kind of hiding under every other rock, so to speak.
Yeah.
Did you get that impression?
Yeah, I did, and when he talks about, other children dying in the family, I mean, how many real cases of that have actually happened?
I was wondering that myself because in all these falsely accused cases that we keep finding, that hasn't happened.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I was very, very curious about that because I haven't heard of it. Have you?
No, I mean, I've heard of Munchausen by proxy before, and I've
Mhm.
had people in my life who, I kinda side eye 'em a little bit, but, it's not I don't think it's something that you really run into very often as far as, like, a real case of that.
Right, and, it's like I always put out my disclaimer there, don't worry, y'all, I don't have low self-esteem or anything, but I just want to be very clear whenever I'm opining on this that everyone knows I'm not giving any kind of professional opinion, I'm a person with a YouTube channel, I don't have medical education or anything like that. But to me, it just seems like there should be a clear, distinct difference between someone who's pretending a child has something for money and donations versus
Mhm.
actually hurting the child. Because Becca Scoops and someone else, I can't remember who, it was some of our good commenters in chat were sending me cases where one mother with Munchausen by proxy was injecting fecal matter into the
Yeah.
child
Yeah, I heard about that.
to and making them sick. And now there was another instance where the child had a feeding tube and they put like
Salt.
drain cleaner
Oh, okay.
in it and as their intestines
Oh,
disintegrated,
wow. Wow.
and to me, like, even though frauding and scamming and conning charities and people's kindness and stuff like that is very bad, to me,
Mhm.
that's just so different from
Absolutely.
actually intentionally hurting the child.
Exactly. I mean, you gotta be a really thick individual to do that.
Yeah, and
And
it feels like these doctors, Feldman, both Kenneth and Mark, equate the 2,
mm,
all under this psychiatric disorder,
no, and it's
and
not even close to the same.
it doesn't feel like it to me, and then also, when they're talking about it being this psychiatric twisted disorder that affects mothers, and then they'll throw in, and or caregivers and stuff. It's like they're interested in finding out what in the brain makes them do that. I just don't give a shit. If someone hurts children, like actually hurts children, I don't care what's in their head, just throw them under the jail.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
take them out back.
exactly. Like punishment is in order when a child is actually being hurt. But
I agree.
yeah, it just I don't know the whole way they talk about it conflating the 2 just really bugs me, but again, I don't have the education to know or maybe understand the reasons why medically or psycho in psychiatry worlds why they might do that, but it just feels wrong.
I think it's more about their ego than anything else. I think that a lot of these doctors have massive egos, and if they are a part of, the academic setting, whether writing papers or trying to find new illnesses and things like that, they let their ego get in the way. And I've told you guys about how, I was diagnosed with some rare Mediterranean disease, and the doctors were literally high-fiving each other in the doctor's office and just going on and on about how they were gonna be famous and they were gonna write all these research papers and stuff like that, and turned out it wasn't that, but yeah.
Yeah. I think that, even Mark Feldman kind of implied that that was the case with some of the other MBP experts. He doesn't seem to give any allowance that that might be the case in himself as well. But he did mention, some of the people getting so fascinated with MBP that they start seeing it everywhere. And
Yeah, yeah, I can see that too.
it almost sounds to me like if a doctor gets too fascinated with MBP, they start perpetuating the symptoms by overdiagnosing, which is hurting the people that are dependent on them.
Mhm.
Because the doctor once you're a patient and the under a doctor, the doctor seems to have more rights than the patient due to the, mandated reporting laws and stuff like that,
I
which are
agree with that.
good. We need mandated reporting laws and
Mhm.
protections, but then when somebody starts falsely diagnosing crazy stuff at a rapid rate and getting people's kids taken away and it all turns out to be nothing and they lose everything, just wow.
Yeah, I'm actually a mandated reporter because I work with youth and children, and,
Yeah.
I have been for a long time, so I'm very, careful
Mhm.
about anything that I bring to anybody's attention, and it's gotta be, like, something that I can suss out and say, "Okay, this is really happening," you know? Now I may bring attention to it, not on a, um, law or, police level or anything like
Yeah.
that, but I may bring it to the attention of, my superior or whatever.
Makes
So,
sense, yep.
yeah. But it's hard being in that position because I had a situation. I worked at the YMCA in Florida at the, youth well, it was the youth room, and so I would, like, help them with their homework or, just hang out with them. And we had a girl in a situation where she came to me and told me what was happening to her, and, it took me a good day to really, make up my mind whether I was gonna say anything or not. And then it ended up, blowing up in my face and everything. It was really happening, but, she did not like it that I told, and it just became this whole thing. So, yeah.
It's always really complicated because sometimes victims come tell a person what's happening to them, and They tell a mandated reporter who is mandated to give help, but then the victim freaks out about, how the help will go down and what it will entail and wants to backtrack, and
Yeah.
it's just a really, really complicated thing.
Yeah, victimization, looks different for everybody.
Right. So, y'all in the chat, we are going to read the first 21 pages of the book here and discuss because there's some parts here that I really want Amber's input on. So, I figured that way we'd keep it to a relatively decent time limit here. So, here is the first page of the first chapter. The part I hated most was the shaving. I mean, if you're a 12-year-old girl, how much hair can you have on your chest? But they'd lather me up anyways and run a new plastic bick between my barely there chest. They needed me smooth and hairless so the little white pads would stick to those points constellated around my heart and record my beats. And while they were preparing, I'd hover above myself, intent on studying the nubby white ceiling tiles, imagining a room where I lived inverted upon the ceiling, away from the clutter of our trailer, away from the hospital, just floating in pure white peace. The scent of shaving cream pulls me back down from the ceiling. It's the same kind Dad used. Every day before dawn, he'd erupt in violent heaving and crawl off to the toilet, trying to peel the Agent Orange from his lungs. Sometimes the sound of his retching would come out of the mouths of those elusive figures in my dreams. The worlds between sleep and wake merging seamlessly for a few groggy moments. He'd usually shave after he puked. Next page. This poor girl, her life sounds quite miserable. I haven't yet come across much that sounds like Gypsy could have stolen it because
Mhm.
some of these stories are so horrific that she just couldn't pull them off
Yeah.
with the way Dee Dee was spoiling her.
Yeah.
Okay, so next page. In an unspoken understanding, the examining room nurse folds a giant pile of cream from the can onto her palm, so much that as she smooths an inch thick trail down my chest, our naked skin never touches. Eventually, the tide of Agent Orange would ebb, and he'd lean dizzy in the doorway and say, I'm selling Buicks, sissy, get it? Selling Buicks, Buicks. And then he'd cackle and brush the back of his meaty fist across his mouth. The nurse picks up the new blue handled blade and runs it neatly down my sternum, slicing it another clean pink row. And what do you do at 7 in the morning but laugh with your big lumbering father who's pretending the doorway of the bathroom is a lamppost and that he, leaning on it like a drunk, is hawking Buicks in his best Barker accent? And then they're done. The white pads have been spread with a clear magnetic jelly and pressed onto 6 different locations. Their wires run into one larger river of wires that flows down from under my sternum down my abdomen, emerging out the zipper of my pants like I had some elaborate cable TV pay per view set up in there. The rubber coated electrodes feed into a tape recorder that fits snugly into a regular leather harness. It looks like a purse. I wear the strap over my shoulder. And while my seventh grade life ticks away, so do the heartbeats that go right with it, right into the box. And then we go to the third page. Now, the monitor that she's describing, I had to wear one of those for a while too. When they were they had to record my heartbeat for like a month whenever they
Mhm.
were diagnosing my POTS.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've had to wear one a lot.
yeah, the Holter monitors and,
Yeah.
the Holter monitor and then the tilt table test where I passed out right away is how they diagnosed my POTS.
Yep.
Okay, page 3. For starters, I was a sick kid, beanpole skinny and fragile as a microwave souffle. I bruised easily and wilted in a snap. Kids in school used to walk straight up to me and ask point blank if I was anorexic, but I wasn't, just sick. And mom bent over backwards trying to find out what was wrong with me. It wasn't just that I had a heart problem, it was everything rolled into one, bleeding together with so many indistinguishable layers that to get through to the root of it all was impossible, like peeling off every transparent layer of an onion. And when I got old enough to peel the onion myself, every layer made me cry. I was conceived in the sickly womb of a sickly mother who starved herself and in turn starved me. She was highly anemic and blind with toxemia at the time of my birth. The result, she explained, of high blood pressure cutting off the circulation to her eyes. I was pushed into this world premature at 3 pounds 7 ounces, an embryonic little bird, glowing translucently, and when they slapped me, I didn't even yell. They thought I was dead. The doctor, holding my bluish body upside down by the ankles, took one look at me and said, "My, what big feet she has." Then I was ushered into an incubator where I lay, as all embryonic creatures do, waiting to hatch into the real world outside the bubble. After that, my health only balanced precariously on the edge of let's get to the bottom of the what's wrong with this kid kind of existence. There were early nose and throat flare ups, loud belching that defied my delicate appearance, pesky and persistent migraines, swollen tonsils that fluttered a plea for removal whenever I said ah, a deviated septum blamed for my mouth hanging open to breathe. You can switch to the next page. Elusive allergies that forever deprived me of sustenance from the four basic food groups. As we got closer to pinning down my mysterious illness in the cardiology department, mom moved into micromanaged healthcare with a logistical vigor of a drill sergeant. Look, damn it, this kid is sick, all right? Just look at her, and so help me God, if she dies on me because you can't find anything wrong with her, I'll sue you for every cent you got. Mom's face was long, her eyes diving into slits, and she had that weird white blob of thick spit that always played on her bottom lip whenever she got upset. Her voice trailed after any doctor who said no more tests could be done stalked him down the corridor, sliced through the silence of the hallway. Jesus Christ, she hissed, returning to the examining room. I cannot believe that incompetent son of a bitch. Don't worry, Mom. It's okay. We'll go find another one. This is how I offered reassurance by telling her we'd just keep going. Look, I'm trying to help you with this, sacrificing my life to find out what the hell is wrong with you. So stop fucking it up when we get in there by acting all normal. Show them how sick you are and let's get to the bottom of this, okay?
Oh,
Okay.
wow. So I was on I was on the same page until that. But, a lot of what you just read actually sounds a lot like my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I, yeah, I was in an incubator. I weighed 3 pounds, 12 ounces when I was born. I had a hole in my heart, and I would stop breathing in the middle of the night, and, my grandma finally stood up and told the doctors they need to figure out what's wrong with me.
Yeah, I mean, what she said to the doctor could be completely justified and valid in situations, but
Mhm,
things we read later on go to show a different side. But
mm.
what's really hitting me is none of this. I'm not seeing similarities with Dee Dee and Gypsy Rose
No, definitely not.
at all. I mean, Dee Dee was so careful of Gypsy all the time.
Mhm.
Okay. We lived together day in and day out, me, mom, dad, little Danny, and then later foster kids. But dad never knew I was getting my chest shaved. He was summoned by mom. Switch pages. With a set of decent clothes and the box white loafers only when a demonstration of fatherly support was paramount at the hospital. Otherwise, he was left to his back to back reruns of MASH, his red stained pistachio fingers, and mounds of empty nut carcasses piled high on his belly. We lived in a double wide trailer then, stuck on the dead end of a dirt road in a backwoods patch of Ohio, a wild, woolly green, lushed out part of the country with roller coaster hills that held their breath in a deliverance kind of way. I swear you could almost hear the banjos folded faintly into the breeze. My parents hauled their black velvet painting of Jesus crucified, with the 3D blood from the crown of thorns blobbing down the side of his head, all the way from Arizona and then through 6 other places we'd lived until we settled in the holler of Burns Road. Our living room was outfitted in an early imitation wagon wheel velour surface sofa set, and Jesus hung against the burnt orange velvet wallpaper, which had been pasted over wood paneling so that grooves showed through the dark and hollow stripes. Sticky shag, as if someone had vacuumed up honey, swayed like undulating seaweed across the floor. Miniature concrete farm animals dotted our yard in pairs and groups: white baby chicks, mini cows with pink udders, roosters a courting hens, a donkey in a sombrero. And when we were in town for my doctor's appointment, Mom always kept an eagle eye out for additions to her barnyard collection. I remember my dad then, manatee like, big, soft, scrubbed clean as if he'd been run through a car wash on a lazy boy gurney, naked white skin stretched taut over enormous belly, pallor of sick clay. Let me go to the next page. Ivana in the chat asked what this is about. This is the first section, Ivana, of the Sickened book. On the last slide, we went over just the foreword by Mark Feldman, and this is the first 21 pages of it that we're going over and discussing. Okay. No hearing, no sight, no opinion. The dark living room of our trailer held nothing except sporadic, uproarious laughter to the endless hijinks of Hawkeye and Honeycutt. Once, when I was 7, I lay in bed drifting to sleep when Dad roared, "Sissy! Sissy!" I leapt out of the bed thinking fire and tore down the hall in slippery, full footed pajamas. "Fix me some toast, will ya?" Dad's fingers placidly folded over his chest. Thick calves popped up on the snapping turtle hinges of the recliner footrests. He never took his eyes off the set. Aside from trips to the doctor, we mostly stayed home in the trailer on the dead end of a dirt road, and there was a great gulf between how we really were and how we looked when we got out. I have a photo from when I was about 11 and Danny, my brother, was just 4 when we drove up to Niagara Falls for a vacation. We're in a fake wooden barrel that looks like it was careening over the side of the falls, and we each wear a smile that couldn't have been more plastic than the water swirling around us. I am naturally blonde by Clairol, wearing the latest in JCPenney pastels and exuding happiness. But happiness is relative when you're 12, sitting in a chrome on steel examination room, goosebumps giving you that plucked chicken look with a nubby paper sheet tucked into your clammy armpits. Until now, the answers had run like whispers over the hills ahead of us. A little intermittent tachycardia here, some mar- marfanoid.
Morphine
How do you say that?
Marfanoid,
Oh,
like
thank you.
Marfan syndrome, probably.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you, McCatherine, for the super sticker. Never anything code red enough to get me completely legitimately diagnosed. But they kept looking because mom was positive that the answer was right there in my heart. A mother knows these things. She's the one who see me go ashy in the face. She's the one who take my skipping pulse. And she's the one who watched the weight fall right off my bones, all while my height skyrocketed. So that's what flamed us onwards after the answer. It was right there, just always right there before us, waiting to be sussed out, and then it would all make sense. And in some ways, she was right, but time might be running out for me. So when mom insisted on another test and they wouldn't do it, well, that's when we'd get the hell out of there and try and find somebody who knew what they were doing. And that's the end of that chapter. Oops, I forgot to, I skipped one of the pages by
It's
accident.
all good.
Yeah, this poor girl's life sounds so miserable, so miserable. And you never really, at least to the point I've read ahead so far, I never really hear of her talking about good times like you hear with Gypsy all the time.
Mhm. So far,
So,
it sounds like a normal situation.
normal situation of abuse.
Just a nor unfortunately, I've just seen so much, you know, I don't know from what you have read, I'm not seeing, like, severe
Oh,
abuse or
gotcha.
anything like
There,
that so
yeah,
far.
there, she hasn't made her sick or anything or hit her
Yeah,
or nothing
yeah.
yet. I'm with you. Okay. My mother, Sadie Sue Smith, was married off by her mother at the tender age of 17 to a man in his 50s named Smokey, who kept a carnival act at the edge of town. Smokey was a small, tight man with crisp tabs of sideburns that sliced down from under his curled black cowboy hat. He had a trick of riding horses trained for the carnival ring, and he taught Sandy Sue to do outrageously dangerous stunts with names like the Apache Flyaway and Lay Over the Neck. After the stunt, Smokey would strap Sandy to a pegged wooden wheel, set it spinning, and throw 19-inch long knives at her. And then there she'd be, having survived the 10 sharp blades that jutted haphazardly from the cracked wood around her, smiling brightly with one leg cocked like a model, a dainty hand flipped above in triumph. That was before she had me, but I've seen the pictures and they are stunning. She stands tall upon the bare back of a wild white horse blurring across a field with a ruby tangerine streaked sky as a backdrop. In another photo, Smokey is snapping a 25-foot braided leather bullwhip out towards Sandy, who stands pinned to a horse trailer with an expressionless face, a whip sidewinding like a snake about to coil around her throat. They wear matching outfits of black and white yoked satin shirts with pearl snap buttons, silver conchs sewn down the trouser seams, and belt buckles the size of serving platters. How Sandy ended up with Smokey goes something like this. She has a mother and a father and an older brother named Lee, who is a little off, wink, wink. The father ignores the family, keeps his attention on a gun collection stashed throughout the house. The mother, Madge, is from a clan of West Virginians who sleep with their own brothers and sisters and have cross eyed children to prove it.
Oof.
Sandy is occasionally left with men who do terrible things to her in a shadowy basement. The father with the guns is replaced one day by another gun toting father, only this time with a badge. He makes Sandy ride behind him on his motorcycle with his hand curved around, resting on her bare leg. He takes her to remote fishing holes with tall grass and the occasional fisherman who looks the other way. 2 years later, Sandy walks from high school to find this new dad has stuck a gun in his mouth and blown himself apart right there on the living room sofa.
Mm.
Madge has a 10th grade education and has never worked a day in her life. There is scarcely ever food in the house. Sandy's given no lunch money, and by the time she's 15, she's famished. Sinking in on herself with malnutrition, she collapses on one of the floors she scrubs with ammonia after school. In the hospital, she lies with pelvic bones poking through thin white sheets. Oops, I forgot to switch the page again. Where they feed her 3 meals a day. When she's strong enough to be discharged, Madge gives her to Smokey, a man who lives down the road with horses and a farm, a man who can take care of her as well as he does his own cattle. As she climbs into his truck with going to girls' town and enthusiasm, lured by the promise of her very own horse, off she goes with the man. It's it is all she's known. Years go by with Sandy strapped to a wheel, white leather, showgirl smile, coal black hair separated down the middle into leather tunnels that lace up the side in an Indian squaw fashion, accentuating the trace of Cherokee blood that gives her the high cheekbones and blush full lips. She runs alongside as her gift horse tumbles into a full gallop, grips its long flying mane, and then, clutching the horn, springs into the saddle with a panther's grace, pushing her to balance her way up until she is standing tall while the spectators cheer. Still running at breakneck speed, she plunges under the horse's belly and thrusts her arm out in performance style splendor. Ta da! This is the Russian death drag. She has captured an audience and, for the first time in her existence, something other than life, a body full of pain.
Mm.
Rachel in the comments, this is the Sickened book about a girl whose mother had Munchausen by proxy. And this book was sent to Gypsy in prison. So we thought it would be interesting to read it and see if there were any stolen stories. But so far, this girl's story is so sad and horrifying. There's just no way that I can see that Gypsy would have been able to apply any of this to her life when we all see her. We saw all the pictures and videos of her rolling around in Disney, it wasn't like this.
Yeah.
It is during one of Ohio's brutal winters that Smokey comes down with his annual bag cold and Sandy has her psychic premonition. When Smokey wasn't out on a summer tour traveling the Grand Ole Opry with his act, he was working double shifts down at the Swan dry cleaning factory, sucking in the rich chemical laden steam. And he usually got sick every winter. But no matter how hard he hacked or how many specks of blood flew out with the spit, there was no way in hell Smokey was going to go to any quack doctor at Sandy's insistence.
Mm.
Ain't nothing ever wrong with Smokey that a swig of Pepto Bismol couldn't fix. So when he woke up close to Christmas, the color of dirty mop water, he had Sandy run into town and pick him up some. That burn in his chest was probably just indigestion, same as it ever was. All the while Sandy was driving, she wanted to keep going and never come back. She saw her mind's eye walking in to find Smokey cold and stiff, his face frozen in pain, and she didn't want to come home to another dead man. She drove round and around the curvy country roads, frantically thinking of someone to call, but she had no one but Smokey. When she did pull in a few hours later, Smokey was standing in the gravel driveway, pissed as a bear with a sore ass, chomping at the bit over his Christmas dinner being late. They climbed into bed that night, and around 10, and not half hour into sleep did Smokey bolt upright and let out a blood curdling scream and go into a death rattle and fall back stiff on the depression of pillows. Sandy
Wow.
was left with horses and bills, a mortgage on the new ranch, a load of tack, show bridles, saddles, blankets, and brushes. And despite what sounds like a marriage ranged in hell, she loved Smokey. He treated her better than any man she'd never known, if only by the baseline that he never beat her. Now, not only has she not got him, but she's got no insurance, no money, no job, and no family. She sells the horses and the knife throwing wheel, the saddles and tack, just to afford a casket for the man that no one comes to see. Sandy stands alone at Smokey's funeral in a nameless parlor, wailing over his body until the undertaker ushers her out when the rental time is up. She is 26. Next page. Now, somewhere across town is a smiling, scrawny 19-year-old kid freshly turned loose from the Vietnam War, having done a few questionable things to land himself in the VA hospital. He wears a permanent West Side look carved into his face from years of beating by a father more interested in raising tomatoes in the backyard than his kids, a wary, expectant look so that if somebody, anybody, looked back too closely or for too long, then he knew that they knew something he didn't want them to know, and it was either fight or run, usually fight. He took that look into Vietnam, where he got a lung full of Agent Orange, and then watched through it as his best friend from high school exploded beside him in the brush. He held up his friend's broken head in his hands and wrung bottled up sobs from his own. 4 months later, he walked free from the war with a low white buzz between his ears, out in the sun from the VA psych ward with only a mild and questionable case of paranoid schizophrenia. This is my dad, Dan Gregory the First. His actual spent time in Vietnam itself added up to only a few months. Sandy and Dan bumped into each other soon afterward in the parking lot of a gas station where he worked, and they rushed one another with a hunger so penetrating it came to cannibalize their very souls. Sandy pulled in for gas at the Lane and Sullivan service station and took a sharp turn in her life by asking the mechanic on duty to check her oil. My father got in her car and never got out. They held court for 3 months, then tied the knot tight. Dad wanted to get married Catholic, and the priest sat Sandy down and said, "Do you realize this man is crazy, my child? He's crazy." She'd later say she had no idea he'd been in the psych ward at all and chalked up her 19 years with him as a learning experience. Funny, there was just as many years with Dan as there were inches in the knives Smokey threw at her. Now, it is one thing to see the VA papers that say your dad is crazy, to constantly hear regurgitated bits from your mom confirming that he's crazy and how he got that way. It's a different thing entirely to walk away from the scene and look back later and wonder if perhaps the woman who is your mother is actually crazier than the man who is your father, only without the paperwork to back it up.
Mm.
I skipped a page again. Okay. My first memories of any medical mayhem began when we moved to Arizona to be closer to Grandma Madge, Mom's mom. I was 3 then, with long wispy hair the shade of banana taffy pulled to a shine. I enjoyed the rich life of a 3-year-old, roller skates strapped over my shoes, and a pillow belted to my butt, frying an egg on the sidewalk, excuse me, in midday Phoenix heat, learning cuss words in Spanish from the Mexican boy next door, and visiting grandma who lived just up the street. By then, Grandma Madge was a born again Christian and devout basement Sunday school teacher. She wore a fishing cap with a smiley face on it to match her own cheerful self and would take me down to the lake on sweltering Phoenix afternoons to catch sunfish. On the way, we'd drive along the mountains, their tops shrouded by a pollution haze that hung over the Phoenix and bled onto the desert, and we come up on Encino Mountain, the largest peak. Grandma would lurch the sedan over on the dusty side road and, with a hand shielding her eyes like a visor, scan the mountaintop and haze for signs of Jesus. Once she spotted him, she'd tug me over into her lap so I could pop my little body out of the driver's side window and share the revelation. "See him, Julie?" She'd thrust a wrinkled finger past my head. "He's right there." She'd squeeze an eye half shut, like she was peering through the rifle viewfinder. Sometimes Grandma Madge saw him kneeling in prayer, sometimes standing, holding the Bible. Sometimes she'd squeak out a few tears from sheer beauty of His Majesty. Then she'd start jabbing again with her finger. Can't you see him, Julie? He's right there, right there. Uh-huh, Grandma, I don't think I can. But Grandma Madge got so exasperated at my lack of vision that I began to guess at his wardrobe from fractured memories of Sunday school pictures. Oh, Grandma, is that him in the brown dress with the baby goat? Oh, now I think I see. Madge shuddered in rapture as soon as I started talking about his lace up sandals. But then she'd suddenly clamp down on my arms and swing me around to direct fire of her rotten breath. Did you really see Jesus up there? She'd say. You're not lying now, are you? Because liars go straight to hell. The straight reverberating from the very depths of what seemed to me like the black pit of hell right then and there. This was the only time Grandma Madge got mad at me when I lied about seeing Jesus at the top of Encino Mountain, living up there in the industrial wastelands of Outer Phoenix. So I started seeing him a little sooner and memorizing details from Sunday school that started to convince even me until I could have sworn that the rock I laid my eyes upon under Grandma Madge's pointing finger actually took on the shape of the bearded man in prayer. So we'd get down onto the lake and lounge on the smooth rocks and catch fish with prickly parts wherever I touched them. Sunfish, she'd call them, because they glistened in the light bouncing off the lake. There's a photo of me standing there knock-kneed with a scrunched up smile that shone no less than the sun itself, holding a fishing pole high over my head with a spiky little fish plopping on the line. We always gave those little fish their freedom, and that was my favorite part, handing over to Grandma to peel the hook out of their mouths and then squatting down on the water's edge, watching them swim away. As for the ones that floated on top, I'd hope and pray to Jesus that they were okay, as Grandma says that they were right after she crunched the hook right after out of the side of their face. Then the sun would sink a little, feathering lightly onto the surface of the water, and Grandma and I would climb in the back of the car and go off to get in a car wreck. It was never anything too serious. A head on here, a rear ending there, always at slow speed, and usually with old people like her, kind of like bumper cars, only the real thing. Sometimes she'd say, "Here we go, Julie," which meant scoot over and clutch the door handle, squinching your eyes shut. Her targets were usually red things, signs and brake lights. When she'd smash into another driver, she'd hop out of the car and disappear, melting into the small pool of people who were starting together. I'd crawl out my open door. Grandma was always kind enough to stretch across the seat and open it for me from the inside before she got out and wander around in the confusion. Usually, some stranger would be shocked to find me at the scene of the accident, standing in the buzz of an intersection, not knowing what part of the puzzle my piece fit. They'd scoop me up, fussing and full of questions, and carry me into a 7-Eleven or bait and tackle shop or their own house, and eventually my mother would come to pick me up. Grandma
What?
was never taken to the hospital or injured in any real way. She got into these wrecks to talk to people. Standing in the middle of the street, she'd fish through her giant white textured leatherette purse, perched on the wheel of her leg, hoisted up on the wheel well for her wallet, and show them pictures of her 4-year-old granddaughter who was with her. The 4-year-old that no one seemed to notice was missing. Even though Grandma's happiness at the scene of the accident was effervescent, she eventually got hauled away. The officer stood before her like a stone effigy and lectured on the dangers of her constant and questionable benders, and Grandma Madge just smiled. God blessed him, and climbed back into the back of the police car on her own, fingering her white Bible like a Persian lap cat. So Grandma lost her license and got forbidden to ever stick me in a car and drive off anywhere again, but she still came over to babysit me when mom and dad went out on dates.
Wow.
Isn't that insane? I'm not really sure what to think about that. Like, I haven't dug up anything about this lady other than this book,
Mhm.
but that just seems so wild to me. I mean, the grandma's showing pictures of her at the accident, and no one thinks to be like, well, here's the girl right here.
Yeah, it's very odd, but I could see this totally happening because I've run
Yeah.
into some interesting people.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's
yeah, some people need attention and they thrive on attention, and if they don't get it, they will do whatever they can to get it.
I believe that for sure. It's just so weird, like the car wreck stuff.
So this
But
may
it
be where her mom gets the need for attention.
yeah, definitely. Well, and also, reading about this made me think of, wasn't Dee Dee in a car accident that hurt her leg?
Yes,
And I bet Gypsy never actually read this book. I bet she got started on it and was like, "Ugh, ew, never mind. I don't want to read about the real thing."
probably.
Because if she had read it, I bet she would have tried to say that Dee Dee did that accident on purpose.
No telling with her.
Mm.
No telling, but, yeah, yeah, I could see that. Not that Dee Dee would do it on purpose, but that
No, I don't
Gypsy
think Dee
might,
Dee would
yeah.
do it on purpose, but if
No,
Gypsy had read this book, I bet she
yeah,
would have put that story out.
probably.
Okay, a few more pages. When mom gets dressed, dad sits with me on his knee and bounces me up and down. Jojo broke his toe riding on a buffalo. I toss my long hair and giggle. Dad, I'm not Joe, I'm Julie. I adore my father. Let me switch pages. He takes me out to 7-Eleven and grabs a Clark bar off the shelf. He rips it open and gives me half, and then lets the empty wrapper fall from his hand as softly as a feather and walk me out the door. Climb into our little peanut mobile and roar off, giggling the whole way home. On babysitting nights, Grandma and I play shoots and ladders to Candyland. We take a bubble bath, and just before bed, she digs around and pulls something out from the depths of her bottomless purse. Clusters of sticky, fused together Cracker Jacks that taste funny, and
Oh,
some strange, warped candy melted to its wrapper. Turning down your grandmother's candy is a breach of etiquette. Even a 4-year-old knows better than to commit. So I'd sit at the kitchen table and nibble whatever strange concoction she put in front of me, feigning mms while she watched. And when I was through, she started asking, "Honey, do you feel all right? You look a little peaked." I feel fine as I slide my hand down a shimmery papered wall, heading to my room for jammies. Grandma Madge follows, muttering her thoughts out. "Oh, honey, I'm worried. You look so sick. Come here, let
mhm.
Grandma feel your forehead." She flips my blonde bangs out of her way and lays her icy knuckles against my face. "Oh God, Julie, you're burning up, just burning up. I better call the squad." Grandma is serious, her face etched in worry and hovering inches from mine. Her fingers spread my eyelids apart, looking for signs she can report to the hospital. Maybe I'm feeling something in my tummy. Maybe I do have a fever. What does it feel like, Grandma? Am I sick, Grandma? Oh, honey, you were so sick. Let me switch my screenshot. But let's just wait until your mother comes home. Then we'll all go to the hospital. I'd take you now, but your daddy won't let me. I think you'll live until they get home. I hope so, honey." She pats my head while she shakes her down own. "Let us pray now." Grandma Madge starts to put her hand in mine and bows her head. I start bawling. I don't want to die, but Grandma's not sure if I'll make it. My stomach is twisted like a braid. I'm propped on cushions against my headboard, just like the 90-year-old lady down the street who faded into her pillows and died last year. Grandma asked me about sharp pains in my tummy, and my hand slips under the cover to hold myself. I'm afraid to breathe in too much. I've been watching Grandma pace back and forth between me and the phone. She picks it up, calls the squad, hangs up when they answer. She winds the curly phone cord around her finger, pulls it out, peeks at my curtains, feels my forehead, runs back to the phone, picks it up to listen for a dial tone, and sets it down. And then soft headlights ease into the drive. The car creeps into the garage and the engine cuts. Mom and Dad slip quietly in the front door, and Madge flicks on the foyer light switch, rushing them, blurting out that I've eaten something that looked funny and how a strange man come in the house and had given her the Cracker Jack as a gift, and she thought it was okay because he seemed like a nice black man and didn't look like he would do anything poisonous or with razor blades like you hear about these days.
What?
Right? Old racist. Lord.
Good gravy.
Switch to the next one. Grandma Madge clasped her hands to her chest like a praying mantis, her voice a bird pulled higher and higher by a string. It takes a few seconds for Mom and Dad, with steady blinking, to decipher her words. And as they sink in, Mom explodes, "My God, how could you, Madge? What the hell is wrong with you? She's a little girl. How could you give her candy from a black man?" Dad surveys two of them for a minute, scanning between their faces like a slow motion tennis match. Then he drops his head to his chest and lets out a long whizzing hiss and tromps past us to bed. He was 25 then. Mom is frantic, running through the house, grabbing things to take to the hospital in case they have to keep me, in case I don't make it, and barking orders to Grandma Madge. And then suddenly I'm scooped up from behind, bundled in a blanket, and raced to the car. We veer around corners and punch through lights on our way to the hospital. Occasionally, Mom leans over and whispers, "Check on her," and Grandma Madge flops a saggy arm back and gropes at the blanket to make sure I'm rising and falling with each of my breaths. Clunking into park in the ER lot, as Grandma sits in the shadowy side of the car, gathering her enormous purse, Mom turns around to face me in the back seat. With the yellow lamplight casting a jack-o'-lantern glow on her long face, she reaches back and smooths out the folds of my pajamas, her eyes latching onto mine. "Now, honey, I need you to show the doctor how sick you were back at the house, okay? I don't want him sending you home if there's a razor blade stuck inside you."
What?
Right? Weird. It
Mhm.
sounds like the mom and the grandma both had Munchausen by proxy.
Yeah, most definitely.
Mhm. Oops, I'm at the wrong screenshot now. Oh, sorry, y'all. I didn't get the ones I meant to.
It's all good.
Okay, so next page here. "And it was after 5 trips to the ER that Dad finally said, 'That Madge is a fucking battle axe. We're going back to Ohio.' And we loaded the Black Velvet Jesus into the U-Haul and drove far away from the battle axe pandemonium of Grandma Madge. And along the way, over the empty highways that in the 1970s still stretched between the desert and the sparse rolling hills of the Midwest, I'd sit on Mom's lap and rummage through her purse. 'You looking for suckers, honey? Here, let me get 'em for you.' Then Mom pulls out a new book of matches, carefully bends the cover to expose 2 fresh rows of the mini pops she's been giving me for as long as I can remember. My mouth waters when I see their shimmery crimson tips. The first one is always the best, and I pluck it out and get it fast on my tongue, waiting for the metallic jolt to rush my taste buds. Once the hardest layer dissolves, I flip the match against the side of my teeth and crunch the softer bits off the stick, spitting the white flimsy paper to the floor, swallowing the rest. One by one, I devour the pack, trying to finish it off for Mom. She pulls out a hairbrush and strokes my long blonde hair. My crown bobs towards her with each pull of the brush. She smiles softly at me with a sucker in my mouth as Dad clinches the wheel, lost in thought, driving as fast and far away as he can from the crafty antics of a madwoman named Madge. Yeah, I was like, "What the actual hell?" And so, y'all, one of the reasons why I wanted Amber to come on and talk about this is when I told her about this, she shared something wild with me. So, do you mind to share, Amber?
No, I don't mind. When I was a small child, I remember so it was before my grandma went into the nursing home, and she went there when I was about 7. So from as early as I can remember until about that time, I used to eat matches. I don't know why I started eating them, but I actually started craving them.
I wondered
So
about that because it reminded me of hearing of, because like Julie, that's the writer of this book, the girl who suffered from MBP
mhm,
from her mom. She says she liked the matches. She wanted to eat them, and it's shocking that the mom facilitates that. That definitely is bad. But I've heard of kids craving non-food things because of mineral deficiencies and things
mhm.
like that. And I
Yeah, it's
wondered if it could be something like that, but it's still obviously extremely shocking that the mom facilitated it and kept giving them to her. That's ugh, but
yeah, no, I remember when my mom or my dad, I can't remember which one, I just remember being behind a I knew it was wrong, okay? So I knew it was wrong, and I remember being behind a recliner in my grandmother's house, and I wanna say it was my dad, but I'm not confident in that, but I think that he looked over behind the recliner and saw me eating matches, and he's like, "Amber, what are you doing?" And I just said I like them, and he's like, "No, don't do that." And, so I remember hiding it even more after that, but I know I quit doing it probably around 7, 8 years old.
Gotcha. Yeah. I wonder how
So
long this continued with this girl, 'cause it it's so weird that she even called them suckers, her and her mom. And I wonder if
yeah.
she started craving them, like, tried one like you did, because I remember, my mom telling me that my dad was a smoker in the '80s, and when I was, like, a crawling size baby, I, got a hold of one of his ashtrays, and I ate the ashes, and I ate his
Mm.
cigarette butts and threw them up. But,
Yeah, I did that with my, uncle's spit platoon. Oh,
oh, yeah.
it was so gross.
But yeah, it really makes me wonder if this girl did it once, like Rachel is saying in the comments, is like a vitamin deficient craving
Mhm.
type thing. Like she tasted one and then was like, "Oh, yes, I need this." Or if the mom gave it to her first and got her to doing it. I wonder if she knows or if we'll find out in the book even, but it's just like, wow.
Yeah, that would be interesting to know. I know I can still remember what they taste like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is it describable?
So it's more like, describable.
She
Probably
said
not.
metallic.
No, I didn't no, not a metallic taste, more like a, sulfur taste? I don't know how to
Yeah.
explain it any other way.
Yeah. It really yeah, that's just so strange to me, and I don't think any of us can imagine Dee Dee ever giving Gypsy anything like that to eat.
No. No, 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 I don't think so either.
Yeah. I've heard of that too, Ivona. She said one of the kids she looked after craved dirt. That was my first thought whenever I read this the first time, and, the girl was talking about how she likes them, and then Amber told me about her deal.
Yeah, I loved matches, and then I would also eat mud pies and, I used to chew my Barbie's feet and hands.
Yep.
Uh,
Kung Fu
yeah.
Panda said used to eat sour grass all the time, a weed with tiny yellow flowers. That if it tasted like lemon and looked kind of like little clovers, that's yellow wood sorrel. That's good in salads.
Yeah, I've actually eaten those, and I used to eat there's this tree with these, like, pink puffy, like, flowers that are, like I don't know how to describe them other than they look like cotton candy,
Huh.
and so we used to eat those too as
Oh,
kids.
mimosa.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yep, I bet they were. How fun.
And honeysuckles and stuff like that, of
Oh
course, but
yeah, I ate honeysuckle. Now mimosa, if I think it's like an inner bark or something like that, but it's supposed to have hallucinogen properties.
really?
Yeah.
Might explain some things.
That's funny.
Oh.
Oh,
So
well, do you
jelly
have
ate
any go ahead.
caterpillars. Jelly ate caterpillars.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Now, it's funny, my daughter, she went to this, school, and the kids on the playground I remember I was a substitute teacher, and I was out there one day, and they were eating ants.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was like, "What the heck are you guys doing?"
Oh my
And they were like,
goodness.
"It tastes
Kathleen
so
says she
good."
had roly-polies.
Oh my goodness.
I think was it BuzzFeed or Vice article a while back that said roly-polies taste like roasted shrimp or something like that? I'm not gonna find out.
Me neither.
But, I lost what I was saying thinking about eating roly-polies.
Oh, Shorty
The
Pie
eating
says, "When I was pregnant, I craved dirt." Hmm,
I've heard of people pregnant women having that, like, just like little kids do, like a mineral
yeah.
deficiency and, craving the dirt 'cause it has something in it, and freezer frost and all kinds of strange stuff.
Yeah, I craved ice with Alora, and then with my son, it was collard greens.
Nice. The people eating ants reminds me of Ozzy snorting a line of ants.
Yeah, we used to snort pixie sticks in the 6th grade.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
Oh,
I was a weird child.
oh yeah, same. Me too. But yeah, just so far from this book, like it's just so horrifying. It's the a real big difference from everything with Gypsy's story is you don't have to suspend belief. It's in order to see the abuse. Like you're reading the stuff and it's just like, ooh, that's bad. Ooh, that's bad.
Yeah, just the little Kano,
The
the
grandma
little
doing car wrecks.
yeah, it's like the little hints in there. It's like, okay, there's something very wrong with this person. And
Mhm.
trying to connect this to Dee Dee as far as like Munchausen by proxy. I mean, I've never heard anything about her that would lead me to believe that she was doing this kind of stuff.
Same. Yeah. Like everything about Dee Dee seems to have been geared towards, and I know some people get upset when we say that Dee Dee conned and took more than she needed.
Mhm,
Um, to me, the evidence just shows that if I'm ever proved wrong to, my satisfaction, I will absolutely retract and apologize. But she told everyone that Gypsy was not going to live
mhm,
past, her late teens. She was
mhm,
going to die anytime. And that was part of the reason, a big reason for all the donations. And regular people and charities couldn't see that doctors were saying, hey, we are not finding evidence of this. We're not finding evidence of that, and
mhm.
sending DFS out.
Yeah.
And that is, a major reason for a lot of what they were gifted is people didn't think Gypsy was going to live. And
Mhm,
but to me, that type of conning, because Dee Dee, in my opinion, had a mental issue that was probably exacerbated by, her family issues, getting thrown out of
mhm,
the house, and Katrina.
mhm,
I think she had a tendency to
mhm,
hoard the medications, hoard items and stuff like that because she had a fear of being without anything again,
mhm,
and she would take more than was needed, but we just don't have evidence of her doing these kinds of crazy, harmful, sick things
mhm.
to her that we read about with other MBP cases.
Yeah, and, it's very normal for a person who goes through a tragedy like that to become, very dependent on their stuff and,
Right.
accumulate as much as they can, because they may not have it later.
Exactly, and I remember, so whenever all this first went down and we realized, the con and the murder and everything, I assumed that the money was probably being spent as fast as it came in
I
just
did
because of
too.
lack of information. And
Mhm.
then after Gypsy got out and acted the way she did and caused me to get interested in really digging into the details, I was shocked to discover how much Dee Dee saved.
I was
She
too.
Yeah, those thousands of dollars of cash in there, she was making sure if something happened, they would be able to roll out
Yeah,
safely.
I agree, and, um, yeah, Gypsy talks about how her mom used to go to all these shops and just buy stuff for no reason or whatever, and we see that, but most of the stuff that's in that house is for Gypsy. I
Right.
can't even really think of anything other than, medications and, the bare necessities that I've actually seen of Dee Dee's in those crime photos.
Yeah, and, some people, the medicine cabinet, it really freaks a lot of people out how much medicine she had hoarded up in there, but we know from
Nothing.
the people who have zoomed in on it that a lot of it was unopened and expired.
Mhm,
And my guess is based on the hoarding tendencies that we've seen of her, when it comes to the donations, to things that she could get for cheap, for even saving up the cash. That's not
mhm.
hoarding, but you know what I mean? The preparation. I'm guessing she probably refilled every prescription as soon as it was up for a refill,
I
whether they
agree.
had used it or not, in order to stockpile things, because it
Mhm,
seemed like it seems to me like she had a real thing for stockpiling for a rainy day. She was scared of being left with nothing again.
Yeah, well, not only that, but, sometimes you're prescribed a medication, like, so for instance, the VA, they prescribed me lidocaine patches for my back and for my neck, and sometimes I don't need to get the prescription filled. But if I
Mhm.
don't get the prescription filled every month or every 3 months, depending on how I was getting it, then they would take it off of the formulary for me, and then I wouldn't be able to get it when I needed it.
Right.
So, there was a period of time where I was consistently ordering from the VA those lidocaine patches because I was afraid that they would be taken away from me when I needed them.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Mhm. So, I have a lot of lidocaine patches still to this day.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff, from what I understand, was pretty non-consequential type stuff that was in there.
Mhm. Yeah, it was, and, yeah, so, people who have never really been sick or had to deal with, a sick child or a sick parent don't really understand how many medications can you can be on or have been on and still have
Right.
a stockpile of those old medications. I have um, a safe that is probably 2 inches shorter than I am tall and, probably a foot wider or more of me and my width, and the whole top of that safe was completely full of mine and my husband's medication at one point,
Yeah.
and it looked bad. It looked like we like like we were drug addicts or something, but it's just the VA and how they prescribe things.
Yeah, and you have medical issues, so
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
have stuff.
true.
Well, and a lot of people are freaked out too by the fact that that medicine cabinet was locked,
Mhm.
but we know from Gypsy's own mouth that she stole her mom's medication
Yeah, and
multiple times.
I highly doubt, Dee Dee's medicine was actually in there. I'm not even sure. Well, I could be wrong, but, I don't know.
You're not sure what?
Never mind, I was thinking about something and then I changed course of thought.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, well, whenever Dee
It makes
Dee
sense.
I gotcha. In that one police report, whenever Dee Dee reported that, I believe it was like,
Xanax
uh,
and
it
something
was
else.
generic Xanax and
Yeah,
generic, like, hydrocodone
yeah.
or Oxy or something
Hydrocodone.
like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, she said that they were in her van. Now, it makes no sense to leave them in the van,
Mm,
but that was her excuse for how they were easily stolen.
mhm.
I just kind of assumed that that probably wasn't the case and that maybe she added the lock on the medicine cabinet after that.
That could totally be true, and, you saw in the crime scene photos that the lock actually hadn't been put on there yet.
Oh, really? I thought it was like a padlock type thing.
No, from what I remember the hinge or whatever, the one that goes, into the hole where you put the lock on,
Uh-huh.
that was on the, cabinet in the bathroom.
Okay. I'm looking at, yeah,
So
in the
y
picture I see the hasp, but they don't show the door side to tell what goes with it.
yeah, so I remember seeing a crime scene photo of the bathroom, and there is a part of that lock or the latch or whatever,
Uh-huh.
um, that is on the bathroom cabinet. And then there's
Gotcha.
also, like, a pin and maybe a screw or something like that, or a screwdriver.
Mhm.
So, I don't know if it was something she was in the process of doing or if somebody took it off and
That's what I was about to say. Was Dee Dee in the process of putting it on? Was Gypsy in the process taking it off?
yeah.
We will never know, unfortunately.
Yeah, right, yeah, so
Crazy.
mhm.
Well, do you have anything you wanna add? That's about all I had that I wanted to go over. I'm gonna scroll up on the chat and see if we missed any questions.
No, I just am very curious. I would actually like to get a hold of this, woman and as well as the women or the people who have, experienced the stuff in the other book, being being diagnosed with Munchausen and then not being.
Yeah, I come across that in news articles. I don't know if they have a book on it yet, but I am curious to look up those people and see if they're still public.
Mhm.
Maybe they'd be interested in speaking.
I would love for somebody to be able to, really speak about what they went through as far as being told that they had Munchausen and didn't, and then other people from the perspective of actually going through Munchausen by proxy where it's actually documented.
Right. Misbehaving. Yes, this is a true story. It was published in 2003. The author and the girl whose mom had an MBP is Julie Gregory.
Mhm. And Jelly, I used to be a walking pharmacy, literally. I mean, actually, on the way from Denver, on the way home, my bag got stopped, and I've never had this before where they actually, like, take my bag and look at it, and it was because I had all of this, medication in this Ziploc bag.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I had, like, 15 of them, and they're like, "What is going on, lady?"
That's funny. The dog's
Yeah.
always alert on my bags at airports because everybody knows I like to smoke the ganja.
Well, see, that's what I thought had happened, but that's not what happened, it was the
Nope.
medicine in the bag.
That's hilarious.
'Cause I was like,
Yep.
"Wow, I've never seen this happen before, and I've been to all kinds of airports."
They saw
It
all those
almost
bottles and they're like, "What is this character up to, Amber
yeah,
Deets?"
it almost felt like a foreign country going into customs.
Right. 1970s laughing at me in there. He's like, "Every single time." Yep.
Yep, I feel
Well,
it.
I think we are gonna wrap up, y'all. Thank you everyone so much for being here and chat. And thank you, Amber, for coming up and discussing.
Yeah, you're welcome, yeah, I'm actually kinda curious as to why I started eating matches myself.
Yeah, I am too. If it's the mineral craving thing for like some sulfur or something else.
Mhm.
But hopefully we can plan another part and discuss the next section.
Yeah, hopefully by then I'll actually have gotten the book and I can read it.
Cool, cool. Well, thank you so much. And thank you everyone in chat. I appreciate you all being here.
Yes, thank you, and I hope everybody has a very blessed day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.